We are back. Warp and Woof Radio, RadioNext.tv at the Cool Groove site. Come to you every Wednesday from 11 to 11:50. And we're joined by guests from around Indianapolis, Christians who are doing good based on Titus 3, 1, 8, and 14. Do good, do good, do good. We are sponsored by the Comenius Institute. At the Comenius Institute, we cross three bridges. The first is into college at IUPUI, helping young Christian college students think Christianly about their studies. I'm also teaching there, teach a course called Reading, Writing, and Inquiry. So I have lots of great colleagues, faculty there at IUPUI, really grateful for the opportunity to serve the university in that way. The second bridge that we cross is into community, which is basically what we're doing right now. Our radio show functions in this way, and we're connecting so many different Christian groups and individuals across Indianapolis who are doing good. That's been the focus of our show for 4 years. And then our third bridge is into culture. We do this on a regular basis through my speaking and writing. We also have once a week Truth in 2 episodes that come out on Tuesday mornings, and those are specifically driven toward cultural issues. So it doesn't matter what the issue might be, we're interested and anxious to speak about it from a decidedly Christian point of view. We're grateful for all of your support. Thank you for the patrons that support us at Comenius, and if you're interested in that, inbox me. Happy to talk about some of those things and meet anybody in and around Indianapolis who you think we need to be connected to and even have them on this show. But this particular week, we're really grateful to have Andre Cooley with us. He is from Traders Point Church, which is at the Satellite downtown, also working with Athletes in Action. Thanks so much for being with us here today.
I appreciate it. It's
an
honor and a privilege to be on the show.
Oh, it's great to have you here, man. We're really, really appreciative of all the good work that you do. And as we always do, let's start out with a little bio.
Mm-hmm.
Give us some background on who you are,
Yeah.
Where you've come from, and maybe some folks in your life.
Yeah, so I'm Andre Cooley, Indianapolis native. Right now, I'm a full-time ministry coordinator at Traders Point Christian Church downtown campus. So a lot of what I do is work alongside the campus pastor at downtown and the groups minister specifically. But kind of campus-wide, I kind of help out a little bit with the groups ministry as a whole. So part-time, or I'm affiliate staff with Athletes in Action. So what that kind of entails is I'm like a part-time volunteer. And so what I do is a lot of like one-on-one discipleship, group discipleship with a lot of student athletes from the Indy team here, predominantly at Butler, and a couple different opportunities at UIndy too.
That's great. And you have connections across so many different universities. You're working at different places.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get into any of that, we need to give a shout out to the good woman now.
Oh yeah, my wife. I'm happily married. Just celebrated 2 years of marriage. It's been a blessing. A lot of learning, a lot of growing pains, a lot of fun. But yeah, ultimately, I love her.
That's great. That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background, because I know that what was really formative in your growing up as a Christian, and even before you became a Christian, some of the influences in your life, and we'll take a moment to kind of spin that in a different direction later on, but talk now about yourself and the kinds of people that kind of invested in your life.
Yeah, so from the beginning, just kind of start from the beginning of the story. My mom kind of instilled in me God, just, through prayer and just different things. But I did not grow up in church, so I never really had a church home. So just growing up, I never really, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Just growing up, I kind of had many different experiences, had a lot of people born into my life. My mom kind of instilled that seed in the beginning. So through the course of life, I never really had a church home, but kind of where I found, hold on, can I run to the restroom real quick?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And we're grateful to be here with you here today. Thankful for Andre Cooley for his work in and around Indianapolis. Grateful for that opportunity. We're going to be taking a one-song break here early on in the show. Thankful for the opportunity to be with you. We'll be right back. Warp and Woof Radio, RadioNext.tv at the Cool Groove site. Thanks for hanging in there with us, Facebook Live. Grateful for your opportunity to be with us here today. Give us just a couple minutes. We'll be right back with you.
Dr. Echo, you are live still on Facebook. We want to welcome Miss Ashley Morgan into the show. Howard Bellamy, we see you out there. James Patterson and Charles, who is this? Charles Burrell and Melanie Zindler are all online right now joining you. And so let's talk about your trip to Charlotte, man. Tell me about your trip down to Charleston.
Man, I'll tell you, that trip to Charleston was just a marvelous and a wonderful opportunity. Grateful for having that opportunity to go down there. Dr. Don DeCostin from Charleston Southern University was the invite, and I got a chance to do what I've been working at for over 30 years of my life, which is faith learning integration, which is really powerful and important to us, and grateful for that particular ministry to college faculty. I spoke to 200 faculty members there at Charleston Southern University, so that was a lot of fun.
And I know that you were down there unbelievably 400 years since, you know, the first settlement of the slaves on the Eastern Seaboard, you know, and it was ironic that you were down there at that time. I was cracking up. I said, look at my brother down here in the heartland of where it all took place. But tell me about that experience and some of the things that you saw, because I saw a few of your posts. But
yeah, one of the posts that I made was specifically those historic markers, you know, and they have a front and a back to them. And so you get to read one side and then you go to the other. And the whole point of this one marker was about the slave trade. And so because Charleston was such a big slave trade town, that was a big deal. And what really was important for everybody to recognize was that things have changed so much in Charleston. Obviously, like you and I always talk about, we never forget history, but we don't live there either. You know, that's really powerful and important to us. So we really want to make sure that everybody understands that going in to any kind of relationship.
Absolutely, and both of those elements are important if we want to move forward, because you know the snapback a lot for, you know, as we wait on this song to end, the snapback a lot of times is, oh man, get over it. You know, it's hard to say that when you haven't been there and walked in those shoes. But as I tell my brothers and my little brothers especially, you know, we have to move forward. You know, we have to concentrate on how we move forward, but use that as a springboard, use that as energy and fuel to deny the naysayers. You know, I mean, really, as an African-American man, 60 years old, who has to deal sometimes with those beliefs that there's inferiority going on in this human race, you know, I take it upon myself to challenge them and say, okay, prove me that I can't comprehend this.
And I think that's really what's important to even relationships like you and I have.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's a statement to people that this doesn't have to be the way other people might think it should be.
Well, I think there's this myth that we're just going to be kumbaya and all glory in the morning. Like when Andre was talking about his marriage, that was so candid, because, man, this marriage, if you go in, don't go in thinking it's going to be just this rose garden, because you got two people, friendships, two people, two different minds, two different beliefs, two different concepts trying to merge and keep harmony in the midst of holding on to my principles that I believe in, but knowing that I have to succumb to some of my things that make me uncomfortable, maybe. To make unity work. And that's what our community needs to look like. That's what friendships need to look like. That's what learning in the school, the teachers have to, like I hear you say 100,000 times, as a teacher, I'm always learning. You can't be the teacher and just pound teaching into somebody's head without listening and saying, okay, what do I need to learn about the people I'm trying to teach? So it's a puzzle that we have to continue to put together. We got about 1 more minute, so you all right?
About my stomach. I'm sorry.
Oh, man, this ain't easy. I mean, seriously, talking in front of people, you know, one of the things I learned is to, you know, cherish your gift as well. You know, I'm one of the 5% who will run to a microphone versus 95% of people say, I don't want any parts of that public speaking. It's a different thing.
And it is a gift, honestly, and it's one of those. It's another reason why HB and I are so alike, because you know, we share that same kind of commitment to the microphone.
My business partner was looking at me the other day like, you know, like I talk too much, and I'm like, well, you know, I wish I would be in the internet radio business or the public speaking business and not talk a lot. I said probably everybody you see on TV with a mic has that problem, just to, you know, to be candid about it. But that's the, you know, where the gift is, you know, how do you eliminate the curse that comes with it. So,
yeah, this is a consistent issue, I think, for the whole human race, isn't it? Like 90% of the people would much rather die than they would public speak.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the reason, like, especially with this new technology on the table, the new tools, I really try to work with youth on how to confront one another on a personal level, because once you do, if you haven't done it, the skin is so thin. Somebody rejects your notion or your opinion or whatever, but it's easy to get on this little phone and start telling somebody what you think. You know, it don't take too much. It don't take too much courage. to do
No,
that,
isn't that
so.
the truth? Yeah, you don't have to
Yeah.
face them straight up. That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be really a bummer when people just come after you.
For sure.
Just too bad that way. But I had another experience like that this morning where I'm just shaking my head, going, "Seriously, you had to say that about me?" I just don't understand, man.
I laugh when I know they're paying that much attention. You really pay that much attention to me?
Hey, we're coming right back in, everybody, Facebook Live. And we're back. Warp and Woof Radio Next.TV at the Cool Groove site, here with Andre Cooley, who has been telling us a little bit about his background, thankful for where he's come from. Why don't we pick it up from, you had mentioned your mom. Let's talk about some of the other people that kind of fed into your life.
Yeah. So my now wife, we met in high school, and she was very adamant and intentional about celibacy and being equally yoked and waiting till marriage. And I hadn't grown up in the church, so it's kind of foreign to me, or just kind of like confusing, why this was coming about. But I think internally I knew that this was the right thing, or I knew that it was something that I kind of needed. So it also got me kind of a little bit more curious about just getting to the scriptures and getting to know who Jesus is, and just kind of understand all of what's going on with the thought behind that. So that was a huge catalyst, and just kind of getting me that yearning to want to get to know Jesus and just kind of come to the Bible and learn about it.
Yeah.
So through that, so we started dating, but it was more so learning about what intentional courtship was and dating towards marriage, and the goal was marriage. And so it's also in that she was kind of helping lead me to Christ just through that courtship. So that was a very huge catalyst, and me kind of coming to know Jesus. And then another huge thing towards in the middle of that was there was a sermon series at Traders Point about baptism, and kind of explained the gospel through the course of it, and also what baptism looked like biblically. And that kind of was that moment where just kind of a breakthrough moment where, like, I want to step out on faith. I want to put my faith and trust in Jesus as Lord and Savior. And so following up that year, it was towards the end of it was the first semester of my senior year in college. So I put my faith in Jesus at the end of college.
Wow.
At a very crucial time with a lot of different things being thrown at you, from the society and from people on campus, a lot of different things. And then after I had gotten baptized, I had a friend who had reached out, or he saw that I got baptized, and he had reached out and just kind of took me under his wing and just kind of like discipled me and showed me what it was like to be a follower of Jesus, and then introduced me to his brother, who was leading a men's discipleship group here in the city of Indianapolis. And he took me under his wing. He added me, or I came into the group, and it was just like a seamless friendship. He took me under his wing just as much, and he taught me a lot of things. He poured into me. He invested in me. He just helped me out a lot on this journey. And then another huge person, kind of a little bit later on down the road, was Matt Williams, that I met with Athletes in Action. I got connected by a friend who was joining staff with AIA, and Matt's just kind of been really pivotal in my growth and helping me in just many different areas of my life.
And Matt was just on the program here a few weeks back. Yeah, that was really great. Andre and Matt and I actually met at a local course that I was teaching for ITS, Indianapolis Theological Seminary, and grateful for that opportunity just to meet new people, if nothing else. That really makes a huge difference. When you talk about, you really have two kind of prongs in your ministry currently. So let's take them one at a time. Let's start first of all with the Traders Point emphasis, and tell us about your work at Traders Point, specifically maybe some of the ways that you minister there, and then also maybe a little bit about Traders Point as an institution itself.
So a lot of what my heart and passion is kind of alongside my job role, is in the discipleship in small groups and working alongside the groups minister, because as I was stating, pivotal part of my story was discipleship. That's where I came to grow in my faith. I mean, just so many different ways by many different people, and I just named a few. But I think discipleship is where my heart and passion is, like really strongly, just because of my story. So working alongside the group's ministry and kind of seeing how I can help use my gifts and use my passion towards discipleship, and see kind of what works and what doesn't work, and which ways can we best effectively help people grow in their
Yeah.
faith and grow in their relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
So that is a big passion of mine. And then it's kind of also, I didn't get to mention kind of some of my story where after I came to Jesus in college, but my background was in sports management. So growing up, I had always loved sports. I played sports. I was kind of a stats nerd. I was a huge fan of a lot of different players, but football-wise, I was a team, the Colts. I've always been a diehard Colts fan. So just sports. Man, I forgot where I was going with this.
That's okay. Let me help you pick it up with that particular emphasis on athletics.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about athletics, it really just gives an automatic connection to discipleship.
For sure.
So when you're dealing with athletes, you got to spend time with them. You got to be where they're at.
For sure.
And I'm sure you have lots of opportunities to do that.
Oh yeah, and that's another big thing about just the beauty of being downtown at Traders Point. A lot of the demographics are 20s and 30s, and a lot of young adults. And ironically, a lot of the kids or a lot of the students that we minister to and we disciple at Butler and at UIndy attend our downtown campus. So I'm able to be there present when they're at the service, and when after service I can talk with them, I can pray with them, I kind of see what's going on in their lives. So it kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm doing with Traders Point and Athletes in Action.
Let's transition to the Traders Point issue, because you mentioned the downtown campus, but you have a bunch of campuses.
Oh yeah.
So tell everybody about Traders Point just generally, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about the satellite issue.
Oh yeah. So Traders Point. So our biggest mission obviously is gospel centeredness. Preaching the gospel, preaching Jesus. But another big way we do that, and a big emphasis that we have, is based on Mark 2, with eliminating unnecessary barriers that keep people from Jesus, and it's kind of referring to Mark 2, wrecking the roof with the paralytic man. So that's kind of a lot of what a lot of our emphasis on is eliminating unnecessary barriers that keep people from Jesus. And I think one way that we kind of do that is we now have 4 service times. So now we have service times in the evenings, and we implemented that because we had people who couldn't make it to morning services because of work or just any other things in their lives. So having those 4 service times opens up the door for people to be able to come and hear the gospel and to come to a service. So that's just one of the big emphases. And then I just love the culture and the just kind of everything that we stand for, even with the humble, hungry, and healthy, and then just our core values and our core values of relational evangelism, intentional discipleship, biblical authority, healthy culture, joyful generosity, just a couple others along with that, but just some of our values and just how healthy the culture is within the church.
Sure sounds like it's some great taglines there.
Our Keystone Habits,
those are really great ideas. Certainly some ideas that everybody ought to, kind of claim because of the importance of them. Yeah. So let me go back to the how many campuses do you have at Traders Point?
So currently we have 4. We have one in Whitestown. It's the Northwest campus. We have one in Carmel, is the North campus. We have one out west in Avon, and then we have the one downtown that I'm at.
The one downtown that you're at is really a crucial concern, because obviously that's right in the center of the city.
Oh yeah.
You'd mentioned that there are a number of 20 and 30 somethings there that attend there, that kind of thing. And tell everybody about the satellite emphasis, because I don't know that everybody necessarily gets what a satellite is. So tell us actually, some of the things about the preaching, for instance, and maybe what actually goes on within the locale of where you're at.
So the goal is to be one church in many locations, and kind of what developed that was that we had many people coming from the original campus was in the main campus, or the campus that we first had in Whitestown. A lot of people were traveling from different parts of the city and state to come to church, and what we found that would maybe be best was maybe planting a satellite within that community of where people are coming from the furthest distance in the city and in the state. And so that's kind of just how it was birthed, the multi-site of Traders Point. Traders Point's been around for a really long time.
It has been, that's true.
Yeah.
And the issue of being in the city, and specifically you mentioned that each of these sites has their own local pastor. So tell everybody about why, even though you're getting a sermon piped in on a Sunday, for instance, why it's important to have a local pastor, somebody that's actually at that site.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest importances of it is that we have to have somebody who kind of oversees and shepherds that flock within that little region of the city that we're at. And so I think that's the biggest emphasis. But we also have some of the campus pastors are teaching pastors. So they will preach, but they may be at the Northwest campus when they preach, and we satellite them in. But yeah, the biggest emphasis is just shepherding that flock within the plant of church of different parts of the city.
And you have plans for new satellites, as I understand.
Yeah, we have an upcoming Midtown campus in Broad Ripple, and then we have another upcoming campus out in Wolf and Fishers, Northeast campus and Midtown campus.
Okay, very good. Yeah, out in my neck of the woods in Fishers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, look out now, boy. Well, let's transition to the concept of the other aspect of your vocation, which specifically has to do with athletes. Tell people about what Athletes in Action is, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about the kinds of things you do in that regard.
Yeah, so Athletes in Action is the sports ministry of Crew, which is formerly known as Campus Crusade for Christ. And one of our biggest missions is just creating a spiritual movement on campus that will cultivate people coming to know Jesus by using the platform of sport. So just one of our goals or missions is to have a Christ follower on every team, in every sport, in every nation. And we just do that by kind of winning student athletes to Jesus and building them up in their faith and then sending them out to go out and create disciples. So that's kind of what our biggest emphasis is as an organization with Athletes in Action.
When you're doing that kind of work on any given day, any given week, what are some of the things that you actually do?
So I kind of, a lot of devotional, a lot of studies, a lot of like one-on-one and a lot of group setting, discipleship type of things. So what we do is we'll usually have we'll have a retreat, either whether it's fall or spring or winter. We'll have retreats where it's kind of a great way to get people to know what Athletes in Action is. And then we also have something that's up and coming. We'll be having like freshman student athlete discipleship meetings on Tuesday nights. And then we have a student leadership team within Butler and UIndy that will be meeting up on Thursday. So I'll be doing a lot of the discipleship with the freshman student athletes.
Great.
Yeah. And then we'll be having monthly prayer gatherings at Traders Point downtown's campus and a few times this upcoming fall.
So do you have any kind of connections to the faculty on any of these campuses?
So I don't, but there are a couple people. Well, there are so there's one of the people that works in the basketball department at Butler does attend our downtown campus, and I kind of developed a little bit of a relationship with that person.
I'm only asking because I'm really interested in professors, since I am one.
Oh yeah.
I work with profs all the time. That's kind of a big deal to me.
Oh yeah.
And I'm thinking also about some of the folks that might be, let's say, admin in the sports ministry, whatever university it might be at. And I didn't know if you had any kind of connections that way as well.
I don't have a whole lot. Most of the connection was just with Matt when I initially came on the staff.
Well, just so you know, everybody, in case you've been living under a rock for the last year, Frank Reich is the coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and he is a great Christian man, and we're really happy to have him on the Colts sideline. Really looking forward after Andrew Luck's great announcement. Well, take great in whatever direction you want to go there, but. His announcement about the rest of his life, and I'm really interested now to see what Frank Reich does with Jacoby, and I'm really excited to see his opportunity really to step up into a place where he's wanted to be all of his life. That's kind of cool. To have somebody like a Frank Reich and then other Christians on that particular team disciple. That's, in fact, I remember hearing him speak this last summer down at Redeemer Presbyterian. And I think he said something like there were 20 Colts on the team that had the same devotional delivered to them at the same time. They were all invested in it together. What other sports teams can do stuff like that? It's pretty impressive. So let me just before we take another break here for another song, let me ask the question, which I think really is a crucial question for Athletes in Action or anything else in athletics, which is, why does athletics create such an opportunity for discipleship?
Because it's one of those universal things, just as music and sports, that is, almost not everybody gravitates to, but mass majority of the world from every nation is gravitated towards the platform of sport. And it's just so powerful because you see the unity that comes with sport and how powerful it is, where you see people who may disagree in certain areas of life, but you see if they come together to root for the same team, the same common goal of winning a championship, and just that camaraderie and everything that comes with sport. It brings out emotions. There's just so many different things. You have friendships that people that you were on a team with when you were in third grade, and you just grow up with them, and it's just the power of sport and everything that comes with it.
The universal aspect of athletics is really important and powerful. You're listening to Warp and Woof Radio, RadioNext.tv at the Cool Groove site. We will be back after a one-song break in our conversation with Andre Cooley about the things he's doing good around Indianapolis. We're thankful for your presence. We'll be right back. Facebook Live, we're still with you. Yeah. So where would you like to go in the second half here? What things have we missed or need to pick up on?
Probably some future aspirations that I have, and just some of my passions. I think passions, aspirations, and then some upcoming events, maybe towards the tail end of it.
Very good.
Things that I'm looking forward to from a ministry perspective and just life.
Okay. We've got, after the break, we'll have about 15 minutes and be able to talk about the future, not just yours, but what this thing holds for the future of Indianapolis. Yeah, so that's really good. Thanks, Facebook Live. I see all of the green dots over there, folks that are
loaded up over here.
Folks listening in. Yeah, Andre's got a whole he's got a whole crew. Speak of crew, he's got a whole crew listening to him now.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, down there in the city. Grateful for that. Grateful for the following that these guys have from around Indianapolis. That's the thing, just amazes me. You know, that this is such a small, big town.
Oh yeah.
And the connections that people have here. And by the way, just if I haven't said this yet, I usually say this every week. If you want to know anybody that's anybody in Indianapolis, you're sitting right next to the guy right over here.
You don't believe all that Cooley.
H.B. Bell is the man.
Some of these Coolies, man, that you were related to, because you know I'm old school. I know some Coolies now. Speaking of connections,
which ones you know?
I know Robert Cooley.
Okay.
Used to be at Bethesda Baptist Church, and I used to play ball with a brother that resembles you. I forget Cooley. We just called him Cooley, but
wow,
David Cooley.
Okay.
Yeah, David Cooley. So it's some Coolies in this.
Yeah, there might be some Coolies watching right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, just mention Jumbo.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know Harold Bell, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, when we were young, you didn't have a real name. Nobody had a real name.
Oh yeah. I've kind of adopted. It's kind of been adopted to me, just the whole Cooley thing.
Yeah.
Because I had a coach in middle school on my middle school football team, and he knew some of my family.
Yeah.
And so he called me. Everybody called me Andre until that point. He called me Cooley, and everybody took it and ran with it. And
well, I was a big old 11-pound something baby, and legend has it when I was born, they said he's a jumbo baby. So from the time I was in swaddling clothes, as they like to say, I was jumbo. So when I went to school, I didn't even know I was Harold Bell. I promise you, teacher called my name the first day of kindergarten. Man, I was mad because she didn't call my. I always had this person. I couldn't wait till she called Jumbo. She never called Jumbo. I was sitting up there, hey, what about Jumbo?
Oh yeah, sometimes they'll be like, "Is there a nickname you prefer to be called?" And ask me.
Oh, back in that day, we didn't have a clue.
Oh yeah.
We thought that, you know, like I say, you call your dog King for 5 years, and then you start calling him Bronson. King is kind of messed up. So you know, King is one of the new.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. So if you want to know anybody around town, or at least have a connection to
got the Diana connection already.
I'm telling you.
It's crazy.
Right there. This is.
She might be sneaking in watching. You know, my aunties, they don't participate on my platform. They just kind of watch me. If I show up at the picnics and stuff, they'll tell me what I should do on my show. That's family, man. Come on, man. You know, folks in the neighborhood be giving you awards and stuff, and you show up at the family picnic. You shouldn't have said that, curse.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Funny stuff.
Yeah. The family thing, it just never ends. It's always there.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about relationships stew at its finest in family, because you don't even get to pick and choose families.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's the people that you work with the longest that matter, sometimes more than family. You were asking me earlier about South Carolina this last week, and you know, Don DeCostin, who's Dr. Don DeCosta, president down there at
Southern.
Southern.
Don DeCosta's big old pretty abode.
He's got quite the place down
Yes,
there.
he does.
Yeah. It's really great, but you know, he was in my PhD cohort, so he and I are brothers. I mean, attached at the hip when it comes to academics. And, you know what's what when you're together in a brotherhood like that.
Oh yeah.
It's a whole different kind of ball game. So athletics, academics really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a brotherhood no matter what, or a
Sure.
sisterhood.
Yeah. Something else I was going to tie into is a little bit of like, I didn't come to Christ through sport, but also it's one of my biggest passions, as far as ministry too. So like just ministry and sports, my two favorite passions coming together. So
That's
I
great.
was going to maybe touch on that a little bit, but if time doesn't permit.
And we're back, Warp and Woof Radio, RadioNext.tv at the Cool Groove site. Wednesday from 11 to 11:50, back here in the second segment with Andre Cooley. Really grateful for his presence here with us here today. We wanted to talk a little bit about the future, not just yours, but what you might see in the future for ministry in Indianapolis. But before we get to that, you had just mentioned to me that something about the connections between sport and discipleship.
Yeah.
Put those two things together for us.
Yeah, so it's funny because most of my life, my biggest passion has been sports, but not from the context or lens of my faith or the lack thereof, but just having come through life and even going through college and everything, being so focused and centered around sport, and then that moment when I finally came to realize, putting my faith and trust in Jesus and then growing in that, it became my biggest passion. So just combining the two of sport, the power of sport, and my biggest passion for it, and then having ministry and bringing them together, but also seeing the impact that sport has, and that being a perfect mission field to minister to men and women who are in sport. And a lot of what we see, I think Matt maybe had mentioned it when he was on, but just people putting their identity in it becoming like a toxic type of foundation, or a faulty foundation where, everything is performance driven. You're plugged into the performance matrix to where, if you're not winning or if you're not performing to the level of what your coach or fans or anything or anybody kind of puts you on, you're kind of like just drained and don't really know which direction to go. But when you're rooted and your foundation is in Christ, you just kind of perform out of that, not necessarily trying to please God out of your performance, but also glorifying Him through your performance in sport.
So one of the things you and I were just chatting about a minute, just before we started back in again, was what I do in academics and what you do in athletics. And honestly, it doesn't matter whatever venue you're in, because whatever venue you're in, you just do this thing together with other people.
Oh, yeah.
And it becomes that platform, as you've suggested already, that gives you the opportunity to say things and do things that wouldn't have been otherwise. You wouldn't be able to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know Frank Reich, and I don't think it was at the symposium that he spoke at, but there was another time where I had read a little bit about him talking about the power of football and sport just being a vehicle, and just the imagery of the vehicle getting you to a place, but ultimately not being your final destination. Yeah. So just being able to use it as a vehicle and not use it as the main source, but just use it as a way to kind of point people to Christ and kind of come into their world, in athletics, and come support them at their games, and just being present and doing life is a lot of what discipleship is. It's coming alongside people and coming down with them in the trenches, just as Jesus was with his 12 disciples, and he was living alongside them, and they were just doing life together. So I think a lot of it is just coming alongside these athletes and doing life with them and showing them the power of what sport can do.
I think it's important to say this to everybody right now, and that is that anything can become an idol.
Yeah, sure.
So sport can become an idol, or academics can become an idol. Yeah. I've watched it in the professorate, seen different people go down the road looking for people to applaud them for whatever reason might be. The same is true with athletes. The same is true in any venue of life. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But back to the point of the vehicle.
Yeah,
indeed, it's the thing that we do. So we've been given these gifts, these passions.
Oh, yeah.
And now God allows us to use that in the place that he's given us to minister.
Yeah,
that's important stuff. And it's important to say that to everybody from time to time, that anything can become an idol. I mean, this microphone, if I was so obsessed with myself, could become an idol. And it's not, by the way, just so you know. So let's talk a little bit about what the future holds.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of your own aspirations, maybe what you see going forward in both venues, not only in Traders Point, but perhaps in Athletes United.
Yeah, I think a little bit further down the road, I think, and I kind of got to check my heart with this, but it's just, I kind of want to pursue being a chaplain for a team. And I think I kind of look at it from the lens of like you're shepherding. Still kind of look at it from a context of like a church where like you're shepherding a group of people and you're coming alongside them and, you know, sharing the gospel and teaching and preaching and just doing different things like that and helping them grow in their faith. So I kind of see that or something I could possibly want to do in the future. I think maybe a little bit further down the road, possibly plant a church somewhere, whether it's in the States or it's not, or overseas, or.
Well, even if you're a chaplain, you're planning a church.
Oh, for sure,
team.
for sure,
for sure,
for sure. And I just think those two avenues, I think those are just kind of where my heart is right now and kind of my biggest passions. Because I remember it's kind of been seasonal, but just like I've always had like kind of a huge passion in business too.
Oh, really?
So even like in sports management, it's kind of like the business side of sports. So it's kind of like the administrative behind the scenes of what the sports world. And so I kind of just picked up on not just sports business, but just business in general.
And this, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is a proud graduate of IUPUI.
Oh yeah,
thank you very much.
JAG alums. Oh
yeah. We got some fist bumps going on over here. Yeah. HB is also an IUPUI grad,
Nice.
and since I teach that, you know, I'm always trying to promote those kinds of things. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to go back to the shepherd image, though, and I think just to kind of fill that out for everybody, the shepherd in the First Testament was somebody who did two things. He protected the sheep, but he also provided for the sheep.
For sure.
And so in your case, or in my case, or in anybody's case that's doing shepherding, and it could be in any venue, we literally are trying to protect people and provide for them at the same time.
For sure. And maybe a side note, but another big passion that I have that some people may or may not know is I have a really deep heart for apologetics, defense for the faith, but not so. So like my heart with apologetics is you have to have your heart in the right place, because sometimes it can become a head knowledge argument. Sometimes it can be, you know, just trying to twist people's arm. Not even just that, but it's how can I effectively defend the faith, share the gospel, minister to somebody who doesn't necessarily believe in as 1 Peter 3:15, you know, talking with meekness and fear and gentleness and respect. So defending your faith in a wholesome and winsome way, it's just something I'm really passionate about.
We're going to have to talk more about that off air.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because that's important. I'm doing some work with Ratio Christi right now, so that's kind of a focal point for me as well. The issue of apologetics, defending the faith. But I think going back to the first thing you said about the relational connections that you make with people, that in the same sense, you're literally shepherding people in apologetics. You're protecting them.
And that,
and you're providing them with information that will help them sustain them in their faith.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's just kind of how my heart's developed in discipleship, is just kind of that apologetic heart, to where I've come across, and I think where my heart came from, and just even in my walk, there's been times where being a new Christian, being challenged in the workplace, and just all kinds of different things that's been thrown at me, just kind of gave me a heart, or developed a heart for apologetics. And then I see myself in other people that I'm discipling when they're struggling with, like, you know, their faith or what they believe and just different things, but just kind of affirming that and kind of giving them that our faith is not a blind faith, that we know what we believe and why we believe it from, you know, historical context and what is truth and all these different things. But apologetics is just a huge passion for me, and I try to instill it in my discipleship, but in a place of having your heart in the right position, because sometimes we may see it, if somebody's heart's not in the right position in apologetics, it could be a little bit more detrimental than helpful.
That could well be. This is something that makes me think that I should just define apologetics for everybody listening. So apologetics simply means a defense of the faith. That's generally what apologetics means. It's not an apology. We're not sorry that we're Christians, you know, that kind of thing, but actually we defend the belief system that we have. And to Andre's point earlier, the faith that we have is actually defined with one word, which is faith. But it gives us three different aspects of faith. It's the content of our faith. That is the stuff or the thing that we believe, like Jesus died physically, rose again historically. And then there's the credibility of the faith. That is, you can actually go back and check these things out. It's not like this was as Paul said to Felix, this wasn't done in a corner.
Yeah.
This wasn't something that we tried to hide from anybody.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, it's a personal commitment. So content, credibility, and personal commitment. You have to have all three to be a believer. And that's an important idea, just to make sure that everybody knows where we're coming from in that respect.
Yeah.
But now that you've opened up the whole apologetics arena, that just gets me all excited and jazzed.
I was striking forward.
So man, we got to get together and talk to students about apologetics.
For sure.
And the kind of commitment that needs to happen there. It's the kind of work that I'm doing with students at IUPUI.
Yeah, and that's another reason why kind of my heart too, because I came to Christ later in life and in college, which is and that's another huge passion of mine that goes alongside with Athletes in Action, is just that college age where you're so vulnerable, you're going through so many different things in life, you're being introduced to so many different ways, so many different directions to go in, and just like I don't know, it's just that shepherd heart that I have for people who are young, because that's where I came to Jesus in college, and just kind of goes hand in hand with the Athletes in Action work that I do with college students.
Good. I was sitting across from Caribou on the second floor of the campus center yesterday. That's usually where I end up. I teach Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 9 to 12, and so I'm over there, afternoon sometime.
Yeah.
And I was there, and I kid you not, from about 12:15 until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was constant talk. I mean, people were stopping by the table. We were talking about one thing or another. And I mean, you got to pivot, man.
Yeah, nice.
You better have a good crossover dribble when it comes to apologetics.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because you got to move where people are going.
For sure.
The relational component to all of life is important and huge. The canned approach to our belief system shouldn't be that way. It should be based on the individual we're talking with.
For sure. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, or a lot of Christians, are kind of somewhat intimidated by apologetics just because of like all the different things that come along with it, where they think they would necessarily have to be an expert, or they have to have every right answer for every objection or every critique. But it's just having a humble posture, and once you have that foundation of what the gospel is, and once you have it, I mean, a lot of it kind of speaks for itself in certain regards, but obviously even the Jude 3 reference we were talked about, contending for the faith. And I just think a lot of people get intimidated about that. And I think they also think it's only for the expert Christians. I think.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And I think it's just an intimidation. But I think a lot of what my heart too is just to kind of help people understand what it is, and just kind of how to engage with people, because I've had to kind of somewhat engage with people in workplaces, but it was really fruitful because I had developed a relationship with these people who were not believers, and just developed a relationship with them, and they were very receptive to just hearing the gospel, not even just gospel, but just me actually feeling like I cared about them, and just being
about that.
And they're just being there to actually care about who they are, and just what they do and everything. And then the apologetic just kind of come with it when I share my faith in the workplace, because I'm not really shy about what I believe, but I just try to do it in a way to where it's more fruitful than detrimental.
We just had, just for the sake of saying this, we're talking about a workplace and chaplains. We had Jamin here just a couple weeks ago talking about the chaplain group that he works for across the country.
Yeah.
And once again, this just goes back to where people work, where they live.
Yeah.
This isn't rocket science. As much as I would encourage people to go to seminary, you don't have to go to seminary for this. You just have to actually care about people and think about them and before yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's another big passion too, is just evangelism. Being in the workplace and being able to engage with people who are believers and non-believers, but also helping them to understand just many different things of like. I think some of it is like some people are afraid to share their faith because they don't necessarily. There could be many different reasons why certain people don't want to share their faith or aren't as very vocal about it. But even like in the workplace, there's different pitfalls or different restrictions that can kind of get you in trouble if you do it in the wrong way. But I think if you get your foot in the door with that person relationally, that person is a lot more responsive and receptive to what you have to say, and just even sharing your faith. It's not necessarily something that they're like. It's not something that they're trying to shy away, because even if they don't believe what you believe, they still know that that you care about them, and that that you can be their friend besides the fact.
The issue of just caring for other people, there's a great line that goes something to the effect of, you're considered to be a great conversationalist as long as you ask people questions about themselves.
Yeah.
The focal point in a Christian view of life and things is others. It's
Yeah.
an other-centered religion. This
sure.
is not about me.
For sure.
This is not about anything that I'm doing. It's about you.
Yeah.
And that's what my main focus is all about.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that you share those same kinds of commitments.
Sure.
We're about to the end of our show, and I
Yeah.
always give everybody who comes on the show an opportunity to kind of give us a 1-minute, shout out to whatever, whoever, and kind of land the plane for us in terms of what you want to leave people with.
Yeah, I'll just kind of go over just some of the things that are coming in this near future. Even with an Athletes in Action opportunity, I might get to be able to serve with the Faith and Football Night for the Colts, or Faith and Football event with the Colts on November 17th. And then sometime in late October, I think it's the 22nd, I'll be doing a chapel. I'll be doing a chapel at the Traders Point Christian Academy for 5th and 6th grade students.
Nice.
And the series is on the armor of God, and I'll be doing a chapel on the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. So I'll be doing that. So that'll be something I'm looking forward to. AIA, as I mentioned, we're having monthly prayer gatherings coming up at Traders Point. And then at Traders Point event we have coming up in October, on October 3rd at 7 p.m., we'll be having our worship night along with our FAM ministry, which is Family and Adoption Ministry. We'll be making journey bags where we kind of assemble bags that will help provide practically for kids in the foster care system and even parents and people who are in that field. So there's a couple different events we're looking forward to.
This is, I wanted to go back to the Faith and Football Night. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah,
what's going on?
I don't know all of the details, but I know that our CMO for Athletes in Action, I've kind of been in talks with him about it, and he's presented it as an opportunity I can come alongside him and help serve. So not entirely too sure what that entails, but I'm looking forward to it.
But it's with the Colts. And
it's with the Colts. Faith football event. That game is against the Jaguars, so it's a 1 p.m. game, but I'm not quite sure all the details.
All the details of whatever else happens around that. But in Indianapolis, we have a great network of good media folk who are going to let us know everything that's going on that we need to know about the Colts. So I don't think we have to be too concerned about that for sure.
Yeah.
We've come to the end of our show today. Grateful for Andre Cooley's life and the work that he does down in the city, not just at Traders Point, but also at Athletes in Action. Wanted to mention that next week we're going to be focusing our attention on the Creation Expo and having some folks in that are going to talk about that great event coming up in Indianapolis at the end of September. And then September 11th, a day that lives in infamy for all of us who care about such things. We're going to have a fireman in that particular day to talk about the events of that day and those thoughts from firemen from that perspective on that particular event, something not to be missed. We're grateful for everybody who tunes in. Thanks ever so much for being with us here again this week. We'll be back again next week, same time, same place. Go to all of the websites that we can muster for you. Go to our YouTube website for ComeniusInstitute.org. You can find us there. Go to my personal website, warpandwoof.org. That's WARPANDWOOF.org. Or go to ComeniusInstitute.org or .com. You can find all kinds of essays, video pieces, and all kinds of teaching that's there as well. Again, we're grateful for your presence. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Pick us up later on the podcast and also on the archived edition of Facebook Live. We'll see you next time.